the last foxbody. This car lives for burnouts and donuts. Most of the bolt-ons that you used to be able to do on the foxbodies, you can also do with the SN95. It's the same basic car, just heavily upgraded. Rev your engines and hold on tight, because today we're diving into the legacy of the 1990s legend. What made this car a game changer in the muscle car world, and why decades later it still captures the hearts of the enthusiasts all over the United States. Stay tuned as we uncover the secrets of this iconic machine and explore why it's more than just a car. It's a statement. From its groundbreaking design and powerful performance, the SN95 and New Edge is a story of innovation and passion. Ready to find out why this is a must for collector cars all over the world, and why now is the time to buy one. Stay with me as I take you down the SN95 path. But first, don't forget to do all that YouTubey stuff. Like, subscribe, and you can especially share to those people that like to trash talk SN95s, so you can hit them with a couple facts. Let's go. It outsold the Camaro and Firebird combined. For over a decade, this car was featured in countless movies, television shows, and magazine covers. Americans vote with their wallets, and this Mustang, the SN95 and New Edge, was voted the clear winner by the American people. Everything else you read online, it's smoke and mirrors. So you can argue all you want. However, no Mustang has sold as good as the SN95 since. I remember the first time I saw an SN95. My uncle used to work at a dealership, and he brought this car over, and when I saw that car outside, I couldn't believe it. It was a 1994 Mustang GT with a tri-bars. It had less than 20 miles on it, and it smelled so good. That new Ford smell is super strong. That car just parked there completely blew my mind, and ever since then I've always had a soft spot for SN95s. Now this was back in 1994. I didn't know much about cars back then. I just knew what sounded good and what looked good. A lot of people back then were saying that the Mustang was going to be cancelled and that the Ford Probe was going to take its place. What does remain as historical fact is that they had three finalists as far as styling goes. You had the Rambo, the Arnold, and the Bruce Jenner. The pumped up Arnold was the one that made it to final production. Now this was the actual reskin of a fox body into the new updated stiffer structure, codenamed the SN95. The structure is the good thing about the SN95. It's an upgraded fox body chassis, so it's a lot stiffer. It's 44% stiffer in twist, 56% stiffer in bending, and the convertible is 80% better versus the last model. That is a huge leap forward as far as a chassis, because last time I checked, everything is connected to the chassis. These level of chassis improvements cannot just be had by adding subframe connectors or a strut tower brace.
Everything that you see that's painted white is a carryover part from last year's vehicle. Everything that's been painted blue has been significantly updated to accommodate the changes in the new car. All of the red stuff is totally new. On the convertible, what they've done to eliminate a lot of the cowl shape they had in last year's model, they've tripled the thickness of the rocker panel when compared to the base car, added this X-brace and this interesting mass vibration damper.
SN95s are divided into two segments: the 94 through 98 body style, which was the original body style that we just talked about, and the New Edge that came in 1999 through 2004. Starting with 1994, came with a 5.0 engine. The reason that Ford did not change over to the 4.6 with the brand new chassis is because everyone purchased the Fox body for the 5.0. As a matter of fact, nobody called Fox bodies back then. Everyone called it a 5.0. And so if you debut a brand new Mustang without the 5.0, it's done. So they did the smartest thing possible and bring out this radical new styling, but with the trusty 5.0. You have to remember that there were countless industries dedicated to the 5.0. The 5.0 was the performance engine of the 80s, and it was still dominating the streets in 1994. So to debut a Mustang without a 5.0, that's not good. Now this engine was actually 10 horsepower stronger than the 93 model and is 10 horsepower stronger than the 92 model, even though the 1992 model says 225 horsepower. The way that they were calculating horsepower, for marketing purposes of course, had the Mustang up on the Camaro just to sell more. But realistically the 5.0 really didn't need that, because nobody kept the 5.0 stock and nobody kept SN95 stock either. So now you might look at the horsepower figures and you might think to yourself, well, that car had very low horsepower, what's the big fuss about? You have to understand that this car was a base for everything else that was added on top of it. A lot of people will get a brand new car take it home, pull out their engine, and start stripping it. This is obviously before YouTube builds. People would actually just do it for fun. And so the moment that this car hit the streets, it was already outselling the Camaro and Firebird.
For intensive, full-day hands-on sessions with the new 1994 Cobra,
the Ford Mustang Cobra debuted. This is not the Cobra that we have today. This is the Cobra with the original 5.0. This was the 93's Cobra's engine with a lot bigger brakes. As a matter of fact, a lot of people said at the time that this car had the largest production brakes fitted to a passenger car, and it had exactly the mods that this car likes.
The 1994 Cobra distinguishes itself from all other Mustangs on the road. We improved the volumetric efficiency of the Cobra 5-liter engine by installing a 65mm throttle body, a unique cast aluminum upper and lower intake manifold, and cast iron GT40 cylinder heads.
And most importantly, for me, a lightweight flywheel. This lightweight flywheel completely changed the sound, and it also made it a lot more drivable. There's a lot less bucking when you're looking in the gear. And guess what? You can actually hear the bucking. So there's less of this with the lightweight flywheel. So they knew exactly where to upgrade because Ford has been selling these parts for a long time. These will go down as one of the best sounding Mustangs that have ever been made, thanks to its 5.0. In 1996 is when the big change happened. Two 4.6s came in, one 2 valves per cylinder and another one 4 valves per cylinder in the Cobra. The T5 transmission was replaced with the T45 on both GT and Cobras. Now this tranny is a lot better and it takes a lot more pounding than the earlier T5s did. As a matter of fact, what a lot of people did, even before they started modifying the Fox bodies, if they were serious about speed, they would just pull the T5 and put something else in there. This was barely advertised anywhere and it made for a lot better transmission long term with these cars. When the 1996 GT came out, it was very smooth and it threw a lot of people off because there were no parts available for this car. Nothing. Zero. You couldn't buy heads for it. You couldn't even get pulleys for this car. So most people that were interested in performance stepped up directly to the Cobra. And now this Cobra is incredible.
Cobra engine, we knew we had to go to an even higher speed and load than we have ever before in the past. And to that end, we've designed this new crankshaft. It is a forged steel, induction hardened journal crankshaft, which is fully counterweighted to reduce bearing loads. You'll also notice that we use 8-bolt fastening of our flywheel in this crankshaft, 2 more than on the GT.
It's a version of the Lincoln Mach 8's 32-valve V8. However, it had a Ford crankshaft, lightweight pistons and connecting rods, and new cylinder heads, so it made more power. This car was running low 14s with highway gears and would easily drop into a 12s with a proper set of gears, which would be 410s for the Cobra. That's the gear for that car. So if you've got an original Cobra and it still has the 308 highway gears, believe me, a set of 410 gears will truly take that car to the next level. In 1999, the New Edge Mustangs came out, and that was the nail in the coffin for the F-body Camaros. Now the changes were far more than just styling tweaks. The chassis was stiffened up yet again. The track was increased, you actually got more suspension travel, and a lot of little details were done to really make that car a lot better. Mastics were used all throughout the body, sealing all the little nooks and crannies, so the car became a lot quieter going down the road. Now the interior you really can't tell that much. One of the main things is that the colors are different. For example, the black is not truly black anymore, so it looks kind of like a charcoal versus the pure black as before. The cluster is now digital, so it's a lot harder to mess with the mouse, and of course a lot more power. The 4.6 got the heads that it deserves, and this car goes a lot faster than what it reads on paper. And the Cobra was also upgraded. For the first time in Mustang history, it came with independent rear suspension, something that a lot of people have been asking for. However, it also came with a lot of controversy. You see, that car was not making the horsepower figures that it was supposed to be making. I remember this back at the time. This even came out in the local news. Everybody was like, whoa, what's going on with these Cobras? You have to remember that Cobras are collector cars, so if they're not making the advertised horsepower, the buyers are usually not happy. Now Ford quickly put a recall on all 1999 SVT Cobras and fixed them, basically just the intake, software, and some exhaust mods. So they took a huge hit, but that also means that there was no 2000 Cobra, but it came back for 2001, and now this car was making the power that it was supposed to be making from the very beginning. It was easily running low 13s, but guess what else was running low 13s? The standard GT with a set of gears. So something had to change. In 2003, the Terminator came out, and these were vicious. It completely dominated the competition at any price. It came with an M112 blower that pumped out 390 horsepower. Way underrated because a lot of people have measured that horsepower at the wheels, not the crank. And it was doing this with only 7.5 pounds of boost. boost. And the best thing about this engine that everybody knows, it loved boost. Half of the tests that tried to get numbers on this car, the biggest complaint was obviously traction. It's very difficult to get traction on a Terminator down the quarter mile. So the test numbers are all over the place, depending on the driver and condition. That's what happens when you have instant torque from a supercharged motor. Now these cars are the creme de la creme of the SN95s, and they will go down in history as the most collectible ones. However, there's a lot of gems with SN95s that don't get the same amount of publicity, but they're an incredible drive. Which one's exactly? The 2001 Steve McQueen Special. Now, I don't know, it could be me, but every single Bullitt that I've ever seen has been in mint condition. I've yet to see a Bullitt that needs restoration. I think it's got a lot to do with the buyer of this car. The people that purchased this car knew what it was when it came out. It's kind of like low-key in a way. It's not shouting for attention. It just kind of looks like business. And one of the things that I really like about it is that it kept the live rear axle. A lot of people knock the live rear axle, but to me, it's just part of the fun. The exhaust sounds a lot better. I wouldn't even put mufflers on this car. It's just leave it as is. It's that good. The interior was even cooler than the standard SN95 with some really retro 1960s seats and retro touches everywhere. The pedals, the gauges, the wheels. It's just a cool car. That car is like a vibe. The Bullitt is a car you just want to have it. You really can't explain why. It's really an emotional buy. The people that bought it were probably getting it for deep reasons. It's their toy. So you take care of your toys. The 2003 Mach 1 with its shaker hood that doesn't actually shake, but who cares? It's cool. It's easy to get jaded with so many different performance cars out there, but you know what? When the engine is sticking out through the hood, it has a level of novelty and coolness that adds to the entire car. Luckily, that car is not just looks. That car is an upgraded 1996 Ford Mustang Cobra. The way it should have came from the factory. You see, the Mach 1 has the 32-valve Cobra engine without the supercharger. It also doesn't have the live rear axle, just like the 1996 model. So you've got a way simpler setup. However, it's incredibly well tuned, and the engineers that put this together really knew what they were doing. Obviously, this car is meant to slot under the Cobra and over the GT. However, it's a very different car and a very fast car too. It came standard with 355 gears. Even the automatic was running 13s, shifting 1,000 RPM lower than the red line. With the manuals, it was running low 13s, high 12s. You see, this Mach 1 is basically just a 1996 Cobra with a better gearing. The best gearing will be 410s because the Cobras love gears, and it will make it even faster. But of course, it's probably gonna drink a lot more. This car is truly a collector item. When it came out, it was a collector item. You rarely see these cars on the street, so the chance of finding a Mach 1 restoration project is actually really slim. And if you've got one, you know what you have. So these cars sell at a huge premium and they're totally worth it. The Saleen S351. It's a handful and it's very good. I like the old school stuff, and the Saleen S351 offered everything you could possibly want on an SN95 out of the box. That's a car that you don't have to do anything to it because all the best upgrades were already done to that car. It's got a 351 engine that only weighs 3,400 pounds. The brakes, the suspension, the transmission, it's got a ceramic 3555 ready to get abused. I mean, it's got everything. And to anybody that's built a Mustang, they know how expensive it actually gets when you start adding up all the parts. A lot of times you end up seeing what breaks as you up the horsepower. The good thing with Saleens is that these cars are tested from the factory for abuse, and they still came with the 3-year 36,000-mile warranty of a standard Mustang. But it's not standard. These are cars that are truly sought after, and the 351 specifically are the ones that really came out on most of the magazine covers. So out of all the Saleens, this one is the poster car, and the prices reflect it. When the prices of all SN95s start to go up, the prices on these special Saleens are gonna go even higher. If you can find the clean one, they are a great buy. So what to look for when you're buying an SN95? Well, exactly like fox bodies, a lot of things do overlap. When you like a car, logic goes out the window. I mean, it just does. It completely does. It's important to stay level-headed with these cars. The SN95, which includes the New Edge Mustangs, were very popular. More popular than every single Mustang that came after it. That means that there were a lot more of these cars built versus the newer Mustangs. That also means that there's a lot of them throughout the United States. So when you're looking to buy, now is the time that you can actually be picky and get a car that really has everything that's on your list. Now, what's on your list? I will tell you the first thing to look for is rust. rust. Believe it or not, a lot of these cars actually still rust. Not here so much in Miami, but believe me, I've seen a couple of them with some rust, especially if you live along the rust belt. But beyond rust, which is not much of a problem with these SN95s, I will look at paint and bodywork. You see, a lot of these cars were not taken care of that well just because they were cheap fun. So a lot of them have been crashed and repainted and redone many times, and sometimes the paint jobs hide a lot of the car's history. So if you're looking to buy something and you want something clean to start off with, to do your mods with, or to keep it as is, I will look for original paint. Since you have a lot to choose from, find one that has a really nice paint job, something that you don't have to do any body work to, because it's a lot more expensive, especially today, to do body work than mechanical work. Mako's not $300 anymore, so you can spend a lot more on paint and body work than you did 10 years ago. The earlier SN95s, which would be from 1994 to 1998, had the puffy seats. Now these seats were so comfortable, they were like sitting on a pillow. However, the leather was so soft that every single one of these ends up falling apart, and these are very difficult to reupholster and get them in like new condition. If you could find one that has original seats, it says so much about the car. That's incredible, because by 30,000 miles they were starting to look a little bit raggedy already. That's on the early ones. On the later ones, which would be the New Edge models from 1999 to 2004, the seat padding is a lot stiffer and it holds up a lot better, especially the ones that have the weave in the middle. Those, I don't know what it is if the owners take really good care of them, but they really last a long time. So the seats is the main thing that I would look for. The door panels are easily replaced, and if you have to touch up any interior panels, they're easily spray painted with original colors that makes the interior look brand new. So I wouldn't worry too much about is the steering wheel kind of wasted a little bit. Look more towards the seats. If they're original, if they've been replaced, or if it's got the eBay special. Another thing that I would look for that a lot of people don't talk about is the stereo, the Mach 460. This stereo is unbelievable. It was better than most factory stereos that came at the time, but a lot of people have taken these stereos out and replaced it with something that doesn't sound quite as good. Believe me that the Mach 460 is incredible. The Mach 1000 is about the same with extra bass. You can add that bass to the 460 if you want to, leaving the actual stereo unit alone. So if you can find something that still has the Mach 460, that radio sounds really good today. To me, it's one of my favorite sounding stereos. It just needs a little bit of bass for some specific kind of music, because for most music it is incredible. Now in 1995, the Cobra came with an extra rare option, a convertible hardtop. Now this hardtop is ultra rare and very few cars actually still have it. It's very similar to what Porsche did with the 996. It offered a convertible hardtop as like a second top, and it's a great collector item. Now I've seen a couple of these for sale, and the thing with them is that they only work on cars that came with this option from the factory. So if your SN95 didn't come with the convertible hardtop from the factory, you can't put it on. The latches are different, the attachment point is different. It's very difficult. I haven't seen anybody do it. So the chances of having a convertible hardtop on your Terminator, it's slim to none. That being said, if you got a Cobra with this hardtop, take good care of it, because it's becoming a huge collector piece in these cars. The Mystic paint job. Now this Mystic paint is really incredible. As far as Cobras go, the ones with the Mystic finish really go for a premium. However, it's very difficult to keep in pristine condition, because to color match a Mystic, it's hard. I haven't seen a body shop that can actually do it properly. So what a lot of people do is they just respray the entire car with quite possibly the most expensive paint this side of Ferrari. Now, since they're so expensive to touch up and keep in nice condition, the Cobras that have the Mystic paint job in pristine condition, those go for a huge premium, just because you really can't replicate that. The leather is actually a lot easier to touch up versus the actual exterior finish. Keep that in mind with the Mystics. It's a spectacular show-stopping piece. However, it's very difficult to get one of these cars and just restore them, unless you're planning to invest a huge amount of money. Don't always go by the Carfax. You have to see the car in person and see how it drives. If the engine is ticking, you're not going to see it at the Carfax. The good thing is that at least mechanically, these SN95s, if not abused, can last over 3, 4, 500,000 miles. And that is a huge factor if you're looking to get a car that you're going to keep long term, the reliability. And that's what these SN95s have. Much like a Toyota is not really appreciated when it's new coming out of the factory, now is when you're really starting to truly see how good these modular engines truly are. Look at how many Crown Vics are driving around with the same 4.6 as the GT with 4, 5, 600,000 miles. This is unheard of in muscle car land. The parts are super easy and cheap to replace, unlike newer cars, that keeping one of these SN95 and New Edge on the road long term is actually doable for very little money. The options that this car has today did not exist before. Remember, for the first 5, 6, 7 years of this car, it was not good. When this 4.6 came out, there were no PI heads for it. There was nothing, but those options are available now. You get so much bang for your buck versus other cars, it's incredible. This is truly one of the last cars that are easy to work on. Easy and simple, which means that you could have this car long term. Now, a lot of people are finding out, but the prices still don't reflect this, but they will. The SN95s are where the foxbody was 8, 9, 10 years ago before the prices started exploding. The people that had them back then knew what they had, but maybe the market didn't give them what they wanted, so they held on to them. And look at where the market is for them now. That is where the SN95 Mustangs are. As cars get a lot more complicated and you need a computer degree to work on them, cars like the SN95s are gonna start skyrocketing in value just because they can be beat on and be kept in like new condition for very little money, and few cars offer that today. So is the SN95 the way to go? Well, let me put it to you this way. If you yearn for a car with no BS that's just about fun, it's very difficult to go wrong with an SN95. You can do basically everything that you can with a Fox body, but it's got a stiffer chassis. So if you can find the clean SN95 and put it in your garage, I would definitely go for it.